Welcome to 65 Wide. This is a CFL podcast hosted by me, Spencer Streichert. Super excited for our guest today. He's a writer for The Athletic. He recently wrote his first novel called Black Aces, which is a history of black trailblazers in hockey. He's an analyst that can be seen on TSN, on CBC, and I'm super excited to call him my friend. That is, of course, Julian McKenzie. We're going to get into that interview in just a bit. But first, let's talk about the first week of the season where we saw 6 teams match up. Even without BC, the Riders, or the Argos playing this past week, we had an exciting opening weekend of football. After 2 crushing losses in the preseason where they accumulated a total of 15 points to Ottawa's 54, the Alouettes took down the Ticats in Hamilton 30-27. Being down 24-10, the momentum shifted in their favor after a 54-yard pick-six by Robert Kennedy. No relation to the other Robert Kennedy. Davis Alexander extended his regular season win streak as a starter with 336 yards in the air and 2 touchdowns, and Montreal sealed it in overtime after a first drive fumble by Hamilton's Carrick Wheatfall. Listen, I would make a joke about that fumble, but the guy has 5 brothers. I can't imagine how brutal that group chat is right now. The Bombers and Stamps met up in Calgary for a nail-biter finish that saw the Bombers coming away with it 30-28 despite a 104-yard drive by Vernon Adams that led to a 3-yard rush into the end zone, giving them a 1-point lead with a minute on the clock. But Zach Calero sent a 27-yard pass to Ontario Wilson, setting them up nicely for the game-winning field goal. The highlight of this game was undoubtedly the Stamps Rabbit making his debut this season, taking it all the way to the end zone and giving everyone with a heart and 2 eyes something to smile about. No word yet on how folks without eyes perceived this one. And finally, the rainy slush fest in Ottawa that saw the Elks walking away 29-21 despite a final drive led by the new Red Black starting quarterback, Jake Mayer, that almost saw them make a comeback. As much as I want to make fun of Edmonton, there is no denying that their defensive presence this year has taken a step up. It's kind of like when the ugly mean girl from high school gets hot. Like, yeah, she's hot now, but she still lives in Edmonton. All right, with that being said, we're going to get into our interview in just a second, but first, here's an ad. Worcestershire. Colonel. Onomatopoeia. These are all words I can say. If you want me to say words about your company on 65 Wide, the world's greatest CFL podcast, email me at 65widepodcast@gmail.com, and we can discuss rates that will work for you. You can reach my audience of 1 billion people. Some people don't believe that we've reached 1 billion already in 4 episodes, but it's true. That email once again, 65widepodcast@gmail.com. You read the title, you know what this is all about. My guest today is a writer for The Athletic, an NHL analyst and commentator and writer and just an absolutely phenomenal sports journalist, if I do say so myself. And I'm not just saying that because he's my friend. I'm saying that because he is a co-host of the Chris Johnston Show. He has appeared on SportsCenter, TSN, CBC, and recently he wrote Black Aces, Essential Stories from Hockey's Black Trailblazers. I'm, of course, talking about the man, the myth, the legend from the title of this podcast, Julian McKenzie. Julian, how are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing great. Really excited to be on this podcast to talk about football.
Man, I am excited to have you on to talk about football because I feel like we have had a really fun friendship where we've bonded over music, we've bonded over hockey, we've bonded over a lot of stuff. And now we get to talk about football, which is going to be interesting because I feel like both of us have base level knowledge.
I mean, I'd like to think maybe slightly above base, I would say. I did cover the Alouettes for a little bit. It was a brief time in my life, but it was fun. It was cool. I like the CFL. It's great to follow the league and watch games for fun. And when I was in Calgary too, watching Stamps games was really great too. And I don't know if you follow any of the promos that the Stamps put up, but the 2 times I've been to games, I've been in this group of people who will watch games on Labor Day, and they're all wearing different letters for Stampeders. And every year the Stamps put out promos for season tickets and stuff. We're always on those posters. It's a photo of you wearing a giant A, on like random like season ticket holder poster things, whatever. But yeah, no, shout out the CFL, man. It's a great league.
No, I completely agree. I think it's a great league. I am giving us a little less credit, I think, by saying that it's base level because I've talked to enough guys now, been following it pretty religiously for a while. I feel like I know a lot about the league. I feel like if you're somebody who grew up in Montreal and you've covered the Alouettes, you know about the league.
Yeah, and also like football as a whole in Quebec, like it's kind of underrated the amount of passion that's there for it because it gets so because hockey gets so much attention in that area. But like two of the strongest college teams in Canadian college football are l'Université de Laval in Quebec City and Université de Montréal in obviously Montreal. Like there's a passion for football that obviously is still secondary to hockey, but like there's a lot of people who've grown up in Quebec who've enjoyed watching the Alouettes and enjoyed watching football as a whole. So yeah, I think like if you're a sports fan from that province for sure, you definitely get a little at the base, you get a base knowledge, but you are able to go a little above that depending on how much interest you have. And there are some people who do lead into that.
Something that I want to say off the bat, like we can't discredit this, but Anthony Calvillo is in the top 10 all-time passing leaders in professional football. Like
Yeah, Calvillo is
he's
one of the greatest like quarterbacks I've ever seen play just off of what he's been able to do in big games. Obviously, he's won Great Cups before. Like, yeah, the fact that he's thrown for that many yards among like professional quarterbacks in the NFL, CFL, whatever, he's a legend. He's absolutely a legend.
he's absolutely a legend. And so are so many of the folks that you have written about in your book, Black Aces. And I wanted to say I finally was able to sit down and start reading it this weekend. I had to learn how to read first. That's why it took me so long. But once I learned how to
It
read,
only took you over 30 years.
dude, you know what? G really fucked me up. Once I got to G in the alphabet, I couldn't get past that. It
Yeah, the
was
good sound.
yeah, it was the G sound, and then it's like the H right after. Who does that? Who does that?
Yeah, depending on where you're from too, the dialects, like you either say like H or like some people like to put the more of the huh sound behind it. So are you a H person or a H person?
I think that it depends if I'm doing a Hank Hill impression or not, because then I'm
Yeah.
definitely a H person, you know.
Yeah.
But I think for the most part I'm an H. I mean, what the heck? I guess it's kind of in the middle, because if I say heck, I go heh heh,
Yeah,
which
exactly.
which
Yeah.
is not great.
Anyway,
Anyways,
not to stray you off from the topic, but
no, but so I wanted to say because I started reading the book, and something that I really appreciated about your book, especially right at the start, you go in with this introduction. First off, there's a foreword by Jerome McGinley, which is great. That's such a cool thing to be able to say that your book has a
yeah,
foreword
I'm
from
really
Jerome
grateful
McGinley.
for that. Yeah, yeah,
But I wanted to say it's interesting because you don't sugarcoat the history, but it feels like a celebration of black excellence more than it feels like any sort of like it's very digestible because you're putting the history out there very honestly, but you're not making it only about the negatives. You're talking about the accomplishments that these athletes have went through. Like I was just saying before, like I've just gotten to the third chapter in the book, but something that I really appreciated was with Willie O'Ray. It was like there was so much about him that I didn't know he was blind in one eye. Like there was so much about
yeah.
that it was just fascinating. How did you find that balance though of going like between celebration and like the sadness that is obviously going to be there?
I just went into it knowing that there had to be that balance, and I just wrote what I thought was natural. And at least for all the chapters, I tried to carve out some kind of outline and know that there was some story that had to be told. And obviously, like you have to tell the parts of struggle for basically each of the athletes profiled in the book. I just knew in my head, though, I didn't want it to be entirely about that. Like I wanted people to come away from reading the book knowing that yes, these athletes, these black hockey players have unfortunately gone through some kind of struggle or some type of adversity that they shouldn't have to go through, at least future generations shouldn't have to go through. But there are still stories of triumph there. There are still great stories of great accomplishments, whether they are massive milestones or whether they're personal, whether they're record breaking. I just thought it was a cool opportunity to be able to show that side of it as well. So yeah, I just inherently wanted to find a way to kind of straddle the line between providing historical context and also just making it a digestible read for people. I just knew in the back of my head too, like as much as there are going to be hockey fans who are going to be enjoying this book, I know my family enough to know they don't follow hockey as much as I do. They're going to want to read the book. Like my dad, for example, he immigrated from Trinidad and Tobago. He likes hockey. We talk about sports all the time, but all he keeps talking about is how like, yeah, I want like all of like my family members like back home to read this book. They don't watch ice hockey, so the book has to be like digestible for them to at least read it and be like, oh, okay, like I kind of understand what I'm talking about. So yeah, I'm glad that that you were able to digest it and you were able to consume it in a way where you were able to enjoy it.
Well, and I think that something that was interesting about your introduction is you were talking about a very specific event that happened in August of, I believe, 2023, when the Lethbridge Hurricanes rehire or they hire this coach. I didn't bother learning his name. I'm not gonna lie. He sounded like a dickhead, and I was like, I don't want to learn the coach's name. It was fucking insane that throughout the introduction, like you get the full story of how this guy was flat out racist to
Yeah, Akeem Alou, yeah.
Alou. He's flat out racist to him, and then is called on it, and still doesn't rectify anything. Doesn't even attempt to rectify it. How many of those stories did you find when you were writing the book, where it was like somebody had the opportunity to make something right, and they just still were willfully not doing so?
Yeah, I think that came up. That came up a fair number of times. Particularly the Herb Carnegie chapter where Herb was unfortunately told by an assistant coach, relayed from another coach, that there'd be an opportunity for him to play in the NHL if someone found a way to turn him white, like stuff like that, where it's I get it. It's not as direct as Akeem Aliu being told to stop playing a particular type of music in a dressing room through racial slurs directed by his coach. I think through varying forms, those different types of stories kind of manifesting themselves. Yeah, they showed up quite a bit, and as I was doing my research and stuff, obviously that affected me as a writer in a way, but obviously for the players too, it affects them in certain ways, and to see that some players are trying to push through that is a whole other thing, and while could be seen as a triumph in one way, it still is unfortunate that those hurdles were in front of them to begin with.
I think you brought up something in what you were saying there about how it affected you as a writer, and because I've known you for a while now, and I saw the like updates on your Instagram about the writing process. How did you take that time though to like step away from your work occasionally and just be like, all right, I need to find the lightness in my life for a second here?
I don't know if I really had a lot of time to step away from it. It felt like I was writing almost every opportunity I had. I was going away on vacations, bringing my laptop with me and writing it whenever I had free time. I can think of different cities and countries I was in where I had my laptop, and if I wasn't out with family or friends, I was writing it and putting stories together because deadlines exist, right? So I guess a lot of the relaxation kind of came, and also on top of that too, like we obviously for those who are not aware, Spencer and I were friends when I lived in Calgary. Then I moved to Ottawa in 2024. I was still writing the book when I was moving, and that was a lot. Like having to move to a whole other city. My parents were really helpful in helping me find an apartment, but like getting to know people in a new city, getting to know new surroundings at work, and you're writing a book at the same time. Like it was a lot, but I just found a way to make it work, man. It's just I think the fact that it was a project that I've wanted to put together, and it's been a dream of mine to write a book in some way that kept me going a lot. If this was something I just did just because, I wanted to get paid in some way, I don't know if I would have had the same drive. And I mean, look, I get like money can be a motivator for certain people, but like it's not the exact same as wanting to do a project because it's something that you've put in your head that you wanted to do for a really long time. So I don't know. I would say after the fact, I tried to relax as much as I could. I went to a spa, I think, after I submitted my manuscript, which was great. I didn't really step away a lot from that project when I was in it, so to speak.
Well, and I can definitely testify to that. It was two Instagram stories within a few hours where it was like 60,000 words, 65,000 words. And I was like, Jesus Christ, Julian, take a breath,
Yeah,
please.
the final stretch of that was just like I was just writing. I was just churning out content. It was a lot in the home stretch of things from like September to December. Whenever I handed it in, it was like almost every waking moment I found a way to write something.
I think that that kind of brings up an interesting point because I have done my fair share of writing, mostly with obviously with stand up, with film and television stuff, never with a novel. And I wanted to ask, did you learn anything in this process though that made you reapproach how you write other things? Because you're writing all the time. You're writing for The Athletic, you're doing all these things. Do you have a different process now that you found from working on such a behemoth of a project?
I don't know if I learned anything different in terms of process. I would say that the biggest thing I took away from it was knowing that I was given the project, I was given the undertaking of putting together something like this, knowing that I could do it. I had people after the fact tell me like, hey, like after putting together a project like that, writing other articles that are obviously going to be much shorter will feel a lot easier. And sometimes it does, and sometimes I have the writer's block like everyone else. I don't know. It felt like a writing marathon, and it was like a 2 year process. And I'm just happy that it worked out, honestly. So I'm glad. I think the biggest thing I take away from that is that I know I can do it. And if another opportunity comes for me to do it again, and I want to do it again, I know what to do maybe a little differently from the last time, which I don't know how much I do things differently, I guess, just because I don't know. I for me, I'll just do it. And if I have to wake up at like 1 a.m. and work for like 2 hours and get it done, I'll do it. Like I don't know if I'm ever going to change that. That applies to every bit of writing that I do.
Yeah, you're definitely somebody who I would say is a workaholic. I in the best way possible though. Like you're someone who I can see enjoys the work that you're doing. So when I see and I'm holding your copy of your book in my hand, I'm like I can't help but be so proud because I know how much time and energy you put into that. What I do want to say
Thanks,
though,
man. Thanks, man.
yeah, no, absolutely. What I do want to say though, and I'm glad you thanked me there because you're not going to thank me in the next little bit. You are a Montreal Alouettes fan, and I brought you on because I didn't
Whoa,
want
whoa,
you
whoa,
to.
whoa, whoa, whoa! I don't really cover
Okay,
the league no more, but like, and yeah, like it's good to see them win, but like, I don't like, yeah, you know what? For all intents and purposes, I guess so. Yeah, like
okay.
it was a team I grew up watching. It's just, it's the attachment's different now as like as an adult. I guess I don't know. I
Like
don't
I
know.
grew up.
Maybe I might end up writing about them again. I don't know.
What I was gonna.
Whenever I end up writing about a team, it's like super different. Like for context, I did write about them when I lived in Montreal and I freelanced for the Montreal Gazette. I don't become a fan of the teams that I end up covering in any way. I don't know if I classify myself as a fan anymore. I definitely have I as a kid, like I had more of an attachment to the team. And definitely they're probably the team I follow the most of any of them. I would say though that like I'm doing the journalism thing where it's just kind of like, oh, I'm impartial and whatever. Like it's a very boring answer, but that's at least how I describe myself. It's a very boring answer.
So you're a super fan of the Montreal Alouettes, and I brought you onto the podcast because I have beef with the Alouettes because the second ever sports bet I lost was in 2009 when the Saskatchewan Roughriders won the Grey Cup and it was stolen from them after there was too many men on the field, which I understand is a rule and it's there for a reason. But I wanted to say I have ever since I have had beef with the Alouettes, and I wanted to see if
You
you could.
have beef with the Alouettes, but it was the Saskatchewan Roughriders who couldn't count.
Okay, they're
That
from
doesn't make
Saskatchewan.
sense.
Listen, I was from.
What's wrong with people from Saskatchewan?
I'm from
They're nice people.
Saskatchewan. All right.
It's okay. So you're the second person I know from Saskatchewan, and I know that the other person I know is a very delightful person. So I don't know why you're taking a dump on Saskatchewan.
Well, the only reason is
Just because they
because
couldn't count in that moment doesn't make them any less than what they are. That's a proud organization, proud franchise, the Rough Riders, the reigning Cup champions. Like they've had a lot of great quarterbacks come through their system, not just like the Alouettes have too. I think the fact that you're about to take a dump on your own province is a little nuts. And I know you're expecting me to defend the Montreal Alouettes here, but I really think you should look in the mirror when you look at Saskatchewan.
I would just like to say I do not blame the riders. I blame the Saskatchewan education system because as of 3 months ago, I also didn't know how to read. So we don't learn how to read or count in Saskatchewan, and that's why there was 13 men on the field. We can't even spell 13 when it's written out. That's too many
Look,
letters.
you have to go back whenever you go home. That's on you to deal with. You have to deal with your people on that. That's
Okay,
you. Good for you. Good luck.
I'm going to deal with them because I became a fan of the Stampeders when I was in high school, specifically because I was sick of watching the Riders lose.
Wait, what year was that?
That would have been 2012.
Okay.
And then
Which
they won a Grey Cup the next year, and I was like,
so
well,
that's all they were missing. They need you off the bandwagon.
they needed me off the. You know what? And I'm okay with that.
So
I'm okay.
you're the curse. You
Uh,
bet on the Riders, you were wrong, and then that happens. So
yes,
you're the curse.
but let me just say, both of the sports
And now
bets.
you latched on to this Calgary Stampeders, who last couple of years, it's been a little rough for them. So like, I don't know,
It's
man.
only been rough for.
Do I want you to be endeared by the Montreal Alouettes? I'm not sure anymore.
You
I'm
know
not
what?
sure
I'm
anymore.
going to become a Montreal Alouettes fan just so that they lose from now on because apparently whatever team I
I don't
cheer
know.
for loses.
I don't know, man. I don't know, man. I think you might need to get into a completely different sport entirely. Or you know what? You should probably just stick to stand up, man. 'Cause if you're out here
Oh,
cursing Pete, so there's the Drake curse and there's the Spencer curse. I think the Spencer curse is pretty tough.
okay. No, no, no. Whoa, 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 whoa. You cannot put me in the same category as Drake. I can spit
I
bars way better
mean,
than Drake. I
that,
I'm just
look,
saying.
I don't know, man. Drake did Nothing Was the Same. What's the project you have that's the closest equivalent to Nothing Was the Same?
Probably my third fart joke on my special.
Hey, man.
That's probably the same as nothing was the same in my opinion.
Do you have a Grammy?
I do. I actually have both my Grammys still.
I have both my Grammys too. Do you have a Juno?
Like a copy of the movie?
Did you watch the movie?
Yeah.
Okay, that's better than me. I don't have a Juno. I haven't watched it either. I was just checking.
Okay, because here's the thing. I don't yet, but I will have one soon when next year when my comedy album Cowboy Number Two is eligible for the Junos. That's when I'm gonna get my Juno at that point.
Okay, well,
I,
look, congratulations in advance on that.
I'm committing to this. I'm making this statement. I will win that Juno. Okay, but
Also, I will give you, as I am joking a little bit, the Stamps did win two Grey Cups since you became a fan of them in 2012. They won 2014 and 2018, so it's not entirely a curse.
exactly. And listen, you know what happened after 2018? We lost Bo Levi Mitchell.
Yeah, who is still playing. Good on him for still carving out a great career for himself just throughout this time in the CFL. Great ambassador for the league, and the fact that he's still playing really well in Hamilton. Close game that first week against Montreal, but no, good on them.
I also have to say he's actually somebody who I'm very impressed by for his longevity in the league, but also he is that really great ambassador. When I was working in sales when I was a young lad and I worked at a barbecue store. I say sales so loosely, dude. I was a retail boy. Let's be real here. I saw
In
the
your
look in your
youth,
eyes.
what was that? 30 years ago?
Yeah, it was actually. I've reached Unk status. We're both Unk now, okay? That's
I don't know. I think you're older than me.
I am, but only by 2 years.
How do you know? How do you know it's only 2 years?
Because I know how old you are. We've been
You
friends
know
for
how
like
old?
4 years.
You know how old I am? That's crazy. I don't know, man. That's it's a little invasive as far as
Oh,
I'm concerned.
oh, I'm sorry. I
It's a
just
little
know my
invasive.
friends' birthdays because I like to reach out to them on their birthdays. Sorry, Julian.
Do you have my birthday in your calendar?
I do actually.
Well, that's very nice of you. It's
It,
very nice of you.
and I'm expecting that my birthday is also in your calendar.
Move on to the next question.
Okay, so what I was gonna say, since since Montreal came back from Baltimore, because
Mm.
there was obviously in the CFL expansion in the '90s, the Baltimore Stallions. They were the first and last American team to win a Grey Cup. It's more recent that an American team has won the
Here
Grey
we
Cup
go.
than a
There,
Canadian team.
I was waiting for that statistic. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
more
has
recent that an
won.
American team has won the Grey Cup than a Canadian team has won the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, and listen, we all love that statistic because it's so silly. I really felt like this year I thought the Habs were going to take the Stanley Cup, and I was really excited.
I didn't think that for a second.
Really?
No,
Not at all? Not even a little
nope,
bit?
nah. Once they got to Carolina, I was like, all right, they're gonna get cooked.
Well, okay. I I had faith. I had faith only because I thought it would be great if Montreal won, and then it would be another time that
I think
Edmonton
Montreal
could
had a
be
great
very
season.
upset.
You know what? I've acted like a hater long enough. I don't want people from Edmonton to come check me, but I will say for Montreal, they had a good year, but they were going up against a really good Carolina team. I didn't think that series was going to last that long. Edmonton being upset every year. I mean, look, when it's cold every day outside and the sun doesn't come up before 8 o'clock. I know Calgary goes through that pain too, but in Edmonton, you don't have that much else going on, so I
You
can
know what the
understand
difference
why.
is though is like Calgary has Chinooks. Like Edmonton does not have Chinooks. So Edmonton just
Yeah,
has cold for 6 months. And could you imagine you play for a D1 school in the US
yeah.
and you go through everything and you're doing well. You don't make the NFL draft. You get drafted in the first round of the CFL and you go to Edmonton. Like how how quickly would you want to quit football if you had to live in Edmonton?
I'm sure there have been people who have gone through that exact process, to be honest with you.
Oh,
So there's definitely been a few people. And I mean, I get it. There's probably been others who have done the same in other cities too, but you can only do so much in Edmonton.
that's true. I mean, you can throw rocks at trains though. That is a good pastime in Edmonton.
That's how you got down in Edmonton?
That's how everybody gets down in Edmonton. That's what the cool kids do.
So what happens when you break a window?
Unfortunately, it just means that the cold air is going to come in, and it just means that life's
Oh
going to suck a little bit more for you.
no. It's gonna feel 5 degrees colder than it normally is. You're gonna make it worse. It just increase the effects of the polar vortexes, the vortices over there. Jeez. Terrible.
Oh, dear Lord. Okay, so getting back
So the
to
Montreal Alouettes.
Montreal Alouettes. I love how every single episode I end up going down a little bit of a rant shitting on Edmonton. It doesn't matter. It's just happened every time now. Speaking of Montreal though, we have to talk about it because they are kind of in the middle of the pack in terms of CFL teams. They have won 7 Grey Cups. Which is one less than Calgary and Hamilton and Ottawa. It's more than BC and the Riders, and obviously the Blue Bombers and the Argonauts are kind of a league of their own in terms of number of Grey Cups. Edmonton as well, because Edmonton had that, City of Champions era in the 80s. What do you think the Alouettes, like, what do you think as somebody who's trying to appreciate the team, trying to get over his grudge from, 2009 when he was a 14-year-old kid and he lost $50 to his buddy's dad. What do I need to look for with the Alouettes this year that might make me change my mind?
I think therapy, first off. That's probably the first thing you need to consider. You need to find ways to just let things go and just, accept the fact that you're not getting that money back. I think that just you have to start with that before you go through with anything else. Because this group of the Alouettes, I mean, even right down to the ownership, has nothing to do with that '09 victory, right? Like it was the Wettenhall family who owned that team in that time, and since then it's Quebecois businessman Pierre-Carl Pelado who owns the Alouettes. So if you were to like shake your fist at them, they'd be like, "What the hell are you talking about?" I would say,
Although that would be
uh,
a really funny thing to meet the new owner and be like, "You lost
yeah,
me $50 in 2009."
and then he'd look at you and be like, "En français, s'il vous plaît," like that wouldn't go well. I would say. I would say just the fact that the Alouettes, obviously they're getting over the sting of losing the Grey Cup, and David. But that being said, they still have good players. Davis Alexander doesn't lose that much as a starting quarterback in the CFL. Case in point, he wins his first game of the year against Hamilton a couple days ago. My expectation is he's going to find a way to continue to win some games. There is an Edmonton tie. Unfortunately, you're going to have to get over this. But Jason Moss, the head coach of the team, long time ago, played for Edmonton. Was a
Ooh.
battery mate for Ricky Ray once upon a time during his heyday. But still a really good team. Geez, in terms of more ties as well, Danny Machocha, once upon a time, beat Montreal I want to say in '05 as head coach, and I think GM too in Edmonton as well. One of my favorite moments
Oh.
is Montreal. They're trying to get this last ditch play. Anthony Calvillo is like kicking the ball. He literally kicked the ball to try to keep a play alive. It ultimately didn't work. And like before the clock has even elapsed, like Danny Machocha is just on the field, just jumping up and down, raising his arms. It's a really funny and silly celebration. But it's an organization that has achieved a ton of of different success, not different, but a lot of great success, a lot of great players throughout its history. And there's an opportunity for them through Davis Alexander, Tyson Philpott as well. They usually have pretty great defenses as well. A lot of great cast of personalities to get behind and good coaching as well. You're talking about one of the best franchises. I know you say middle of the pack in some degree, but I think the Alouettes are a really great franchise to play for in the CFL because of the history that they've shown for decades and decades and decades, and all the different players who have succeeded and are on the ring around the Percival Molson Stadium. It's a
I
great
do want
franchise
to
to be part of.
I want to clarify. Uh, 3 decades because they were in Baltimore before. It was the Baltimore Stallions before.
Right, but they also won cups in 1949, 19, played in the 70s as well. There was that time before. So, know your history. That's
You know
crazy.
what? I feel like I'm gonna have to start following the Alouettes a little bit harder now. I think I'm gonna
Yeah,
have to do my research and learn a little bit more of the history of the organization.
I think you
Uh,
should.
I would like to put out an offer, which is that any Alouettes players, past or former, that would like to come on, I actually would like to talk to somebody from that organization. I find that I've had an easier time getting players that have played in Western teams than I
Hmm.
have Eastern teams, and I would like to change that because I think that it's super important to cover the entire league. As I've said before, I think that what is the strength of the CFL is that it is Canada's game in so many ways, and the
I
fact that
think I think you should also not just stick to just like players. Talk to people who have covered the league in a wide variety of ways. One of the best people to who have ever covered the CFL and still does from time to time. Herb Zurkowski does a great job in Montreal covering the Montreal Alouettes. He's someone worth reaching out to. Joey Alfieri, a friend of mine who we used to work together at TSN Radio in Montreal. He works for the Alouettes now. That's someone who could tell you about the Alouettes inside and out. That's someone else that's also worth talking to. But yeah, absolutely. Like different people who have been around the organization in some ways, former players. I mean, it's a shame we didn't even get to it. Like that's an organization where they've had so many different, like, even if they're just one-offs, but like the kind of like guys who tried to come over from the NFL to make something work, like a Chad Ochocinco, for example. That was an experience. Johnny Manziel also had a bit of time there. That was an experience as well too. Yeah, I think the Montreal Alouettes, just as a team, they've rarely ever been boring to follow. So it's a really worthwhile organization to follow.
And I will say that they are an organization that has been always fun to watch play Western Conference teams because
Hmm.
they do have that same sort of not give a fuck attitude that a lot of Western Conference teams like the Riders, like the Stamps and Elks fan bases, the Bombers fan bases, like they all bring that same sort of energy, which is I think one of the reasons why watching the Alouettes in the Grey Cup is such an interesting one and always an entertaining one. As
Hmm.
soon as we get into the playoffs any year, it's always fun to watch. So I mean, I do want to say I have been willfully ignorant, but I do appreciate the team and the league. I think,
Thanks for taking on my trolling too.
dude, I was so happy to. Are you kidding me? The If I did that by myself, it would be so lame. Just me talking to myself, that would suck.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Julian, I don't want to keep you any further. This is officially the longest episode of 65 Wide, which I am super thankful for your time. This means a lot to me. Anytime that we get to hang out and create fun, engaging shit together, I'm always down. I want to say, make sure that you get Black Aces wherever you get your books. I believe Chapters in Indigo have them, do they not?
Yeah. Yeah, they
And
do.
and if you're not going to get like in physical, in person, you can order it online. Thank you so much, Julie. The last question that I always ask any guest that isn't currently playing for a team: who do you think is going to win the Grey Cup this year?
I will say Saskatchewan repeats.